What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another installment of ToneQuest. This is episode 2 of season 2, and in this episode we'll be looking at the phenomenal tone for Joe Satriani from the Extremist album era. So let's dive in and dial it in. Alright, so we're gonna break this video into a few sections, and I'll try to place some timestamps in the comment sections to help you move around. Although I would strongly recommend that you watch the whole video so that you can understand the background and the reasoning behind the what and the why. So don't be that guy, stick around with me and I'll try my best to explain the preset in detail as much as possible. So the first section is where I would like to provide some background behind the tone. Don't skip this section, guys. It's important for me that you understand why I chose the components for the tones. So don't go anywhere and make sure you stick around. You see, for every preset that I dial in, I usually do some research online, and if not a lot. Okay, it's usually a lot, to be honest. So for this one too, I spent a decent amount of time on the internet reading articles and forum posts around what gear Joe must have used for that album. And as always, I got a plethora of answers which really confused me. Now, you would typically incline to use the JVM or the JS series Marshall amp the moment you think of Joe Satriani, but that's not always true. You see, Joe's gear has been very diverse and he's used many different Marshall amps and also gear like the Rockman Sustainer, if my research does serve me right. So after googling around quite a bit and trying quite a few Marshall amps, to be honest, I finally stumbled upon an article which describes the gear he has used for the Surfing with the Alien album. I dismissed the article as I was clearly looking for the tone from a different album and a different era. But after numerous failed attempts at other amps and cab combinations, I finally returned to the same article and tried out the exact settings as described. And to my surprise, it all started to kind of line up. Now, I can't say for certain that this is the same gear that he's used on this album, but it sure does sound kind of close to me. And this is not just for this track, as you will probably hear from the demos later in this video. It kind of fits most of the tracks on the record, except for Crying, which is a completely different monster of a tone to deal with, to be honest. So here's the gear as outlined from that article which I'm referring. The amp used was an early 70s Marshall model 1959 Super Lead 100 watt head. The cab used was a Marshall 4x12 with Celestion G12 75 speakers. The drive pedal used was a Chandler Tube driver. Some of the other effects were like Eventide H949, which I believe Joe used for like a detune effect, and some of the modulation. I believe he also used a Crybaby wah pedal for some of the tracks as well, but on some of the tracks where you do not hear the wah, you can still hear that his tone is quite nasal and it almost sounds like a wah in a fixed position, or as some of us tone chasers like to call it, a cocked wah. So now that we've figured out what blocks we roughly want, let's dive into the Axe Edit and let's dial it in. Alright guys, this is section 2 and I've got the Axe Edit loaded in front of me, and what we're going to do as always is go into the Axe Edit and dial in the preset from scratch. I'm going to try and explain each and every block in detail, so stick around, don't skip the video. For reference, I'm playing my Ernie Music Man JP15 guitar. It's got the Ernie regular slinky strings on there. I'm mostly playing on the bridge pickup, the volume's on full, the tone's on full. Alright, so let's start diving into the preset and start building it up. First thing we need is an amp and a cab. You guessed it right. Bravo. What would be a preset without an amp and a cab? Although I've seen some presets without a cab, so let's just skip that part. Let's add the amp and the cab. So the amp I'm going to add, this is going to be a 1959 SLP Jump, which is the closest amp that you'll get in the XFX2 with reference to what I mentioned earlier in the section 1 from what I found in the article. This is a Marshall, I believe, Marshall head, and what we're going to do is add a cab as well. This time I'm going to choose an ultra res stereo cab, which I'm going to set it up to F039 which is the 1916B 4x12 T75, and I believe this is one of Satriani's favorite cabs as well. I saw one of his interviews, I think with Guitar World, where he talks about his rig. So what we're going to do is leave everything as stock and hear how the preset is sounding at the moment. So this is how it's sounding. Obviously it's sounding quite dull and it's sounding very flat. Obviously we need to add a lot of things and tweak a lot of things to make it work better. So let's start doing that. What we're going to do is go into the amp and tweak a few things. Now a couple of things to note about this amp, specifically from my understanding, is that the presence knob and the master volume knobs are where most of the actions is happening. You see, if you add too much presence, your tone's probably going to get very sharp and brittle, and at the same time, if you add too much master volume, what's going to happen is your tone's going to get too bassy and too muddy and flabby, and I really don't want that kind of a tone here. So we're going to be careful about those two controls. Let's start with the treble drive. I'm going to boost it up to 8.3. we want good amount of drive in this preset. Normal drive is going to go up to 5.5. bass I'm going to pull down to around 3, and the mids I'm going to boost up to 8 because that's the kind of tone he likes, I think, mostly. For treble I'm going to push it up to 7. You might go slightly lower in your case. My guitar is more mid based, so I have to add a little bit more treble. You might have to turn this down a little bit, so you might go for 6 or 5.5. Presence I'm going to push it up to 6. As I said earlier, I'm not going to have too much presence in there. The master volume I'm going to bring it down to 3.9 because, as I said, if I have too much master volume it becomes too bassy for me. So since I brought down the master volume, obviously I'm going to adjust the level to bring it up a little bit. I'm going to push it up to -6 dB so that it's balanced out. And also what I'm going to do is go into the cab and I'm going to turn the link off so that I can mic the cabs differently. The first one I'm going to do a 421 dynamic, and the second one I'm going to do a 87A condenser mic. And also I'm going to push up the proximity for both of them to around 2. What does the proximity do? It brings the mic closer to the speaker, so naturally you're going to get more bass and more lower mids out of it. Too much would be excessive in this case, and I'm going to go into the room section and I'm going to change the air, and I'm going to add air at around 20%, and I'm going to change the air frequency to around 5600, I believe. Speaking of percentages, YouTube tells me that around 80% of the viewers of my channel are not subscribed to my channel, which is very weird. Are you one of those guys? Please make sure you're not one of those guys. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you can get notified of all of my content moving forward, and I don't have to spam or I don't have to go and post my links everywhere. You get notified, you get the preset, and I get the watch time. It's as simple as that. So but yeah, I love your support so that I can continue the series, and it's the only thing I'm asking in return. So make sure you subscribe so that you can get notified of all my videos and presets going forward. Cheers. Coming back to the tone. Okay, so what we're going to do is also go into the advanced tab, and I'm going to change the high cut to 80 Hertz and low cut to 80 Hertz, not high cut. And the high cut, I'm going to bring it down to 6500. I'm going to cut a lot of the treble here. So with that done, I think we should be sounding a little better. This is how we're sounding. It's obviously missing a lot of drive, which obviously we're going to fulfill by adding a drive pedal in the beginning. Now, if you followed what I said in section 1 about the Chandler tube driver, man, that's a mouthful. So what we're going to do is add a drive pedal, which is corresponding to that pedal, which if you do your research and Google up a little bit, you'll see that it's actually the tube drive 3 knob pedal, effect type rather I should say, on the XFX2, and we're going to select that and change the drive to I think 6. The tone I'm going to leave it as it is. The high cut, low cut I'm not going to touch as well. The high cut I'm going to bring it down to 9500 so that it's not very sharp. I'm going to push up the bass to around 4 and the treble as well to around 8. We want more treble coming out, and the level I'm going to push up to 7 as well. With that, we should have much more drive in our tone. Now let's hear how that sounds. It's nice, but it's missing that modulation, the delay, the reverb. It's missing a lot of things right now. So let's go ahead and add those. So what we're going to do is add a pitch block over here, which I believe is the Eventide H949 sort of a simulation, which we want to do, which is, I think, the modulation or a detune effect. It widens your sound and it gives a chorus effect, sort of a chorus effect at the same time as well. Now for voice 1 and voice 2 detunes values, the sense you can choose, I think, combinations of -11 and -9. I think they sound really good. I went with -11 and +9. So I'm going to choose -11 and +9. There's no hard and fast rule here. Whatever sounds good to your ear and your taste, do that. That's more important. So set it to stereo. High cut all the way up. Mix, I'm going to bring it down to 20%. Now, if you find the modulation is too high or too less, you can tweak this, and bring it up or down based on your taste and your style of playing as well. Now, with that detune done, we're going to also add a delay. I'm going to use a multi-delay in this case, and I'm going to set it to quad tap, I think, which is the default. The delays I'm not going to touch. I think they're set wherever they are. The tempo of this track is 86 ppm. Tempo 1 is 1/4 quarter and 1/8 of a dot, 1/8 and 1/4 of a dot. I'm going to leave those there. All I'm going to change is I'm going to bring the mix down to around 17%, I think. And then I'm going to add a reverb in a separate layer this time, because it gives me more control and there's two signals going through. It's better. I'm going to connect the guy. Let's connect him and then go into the reverb. I'm going to change it to medium room, which is the default. I'm going to change the quality to high. Time I'm going to boost up to 2 seconds, and the size I'm going to bring it up to 40. Also in the EQ, I went and changed the high cut to 8500 because we want some of the highs to shine through the reverb in this case. So it's always a good thing to play around with the high cut to, suit the kind of tone you want. The mix I'm going to boost up to around 27% in this case. We want a lot of reverb coming through, and since it's sitting in a separate layer, it's going to sound really, really nice. Now with that done, let's play and see how that's sounding basically. Which part should we play? Let's play the beginning. I think that sounds sweet, but there's a slight bit of thing missing. As I said earlier, if you hear his tone on the record, I think you'll probably hear a nasal aspect, a subtle nasal aspect, small, almost like a fixed wah or a wah pedal. But especially in the part where he plays this part. So to achieve that wah effect, what you can do is, of course, if you have a wah pedal, you can use that as well, along with the wah block here. But the problem with that is that with the wah block, you cannot control the mix. You can control the level, but that, you'll have to do it in a separate layer and stuff like that. But for me, what I found is a better approach. I don't own a wah pedal, by the way. Somebody would gift it to me. That would be really nice. But what I did in this case is I added a filter block. This is a nice little trick that you can use, and I learned this from Leon. Thank you, Leon, again. This is basically used to set sort of a fixed wah sort of an effect. What we'll do is push some of the mid frequencies a little up so that it gives that sort of a wah effect to us. Set it to peaking. The gain I'm going to set it to around 4.2. Frequency I'm going to change to 995 or 996. I think anywhere between 800 to sort of 1200 hertz is going to give you a nice frequency to play with. The Q, I'm going to change it to around 3.9 or 4, I think. Let's keep it to 3.9. What this will do is target certain frequencies. You can see the slope there. It's going to be really, really sharp. Now what this is going to do is give us that sort of a wah effect that we're looking for. So without the filter, this is how it sounds. With the filter, it's a very subtle effect, but you'll hear it. Did you hear that? Let's do that again. So parts like so if you play other songs, like if you play, for example, let's play War. Or if you play new blues, for example, pardon, I'm butchering some of these tracks. I haven't played them in a while, and neither have I worked them out fully, but just to give you an idea of how the tone sounds, you should be able to understand how close it sounds to some of the tracks as well. And if you play stuff like Motorcycle Driver, for example, sorry, I butchered the track again. I haven't played those tracks in a while now, but something like Summer Song, where it's got like a lot of war happening, but without the war also. You get the idea. So this is how the preset, I believe, is kind of fitting for every track on the record, except for Crying. As I said, Crying is a different game altogether, and I have attempted that preset before in some of the other videos. You can go and check it out. But I believe this sort of a preset, if you tweak it further to get that kind of a tone, you should be more successful. So try it out. Play around with the cap, play around with the air frequencies. I think you should be able to kind of come closer to the Crying tone as well. I think one final thing I also added in the preset is going to the amp and add some dynamic presence as well. This will give you those shining highs, and when you play especially on the bends on the E string, you should be able to get some more chimey sort of a highs coming out of there. So that's pretty much it, folks. That's the preset. Hope you guys enjoyed the playthrough and the walkthrough as well, and the build up as well. Make sure you download the preset from AxeChange and give it a try, and leave me a comment down below as to what you had to change or what you would probably change in the preset to make it sound better, or does it sound better out of the box. I'm always looking for your feedback, and that's exactly what drives me. Your feedback and your support are the only two things I'm looking for in return. So make sure you leave me a comment, a like, and if you're not subscribed to yet, you make me sad. No, just kidding. Go ahead and subscribe, and make sure you click the notification bell as well, so that you can be notified of all my content moving forward. There's a lot of tone in the channel for you to check out. Go ahead and do so. Spend some time there. You'll find some John Petrucci, you'll find some Joe Satriani, and you'll find some other artists as well, like Nick Johnston, for example, and Eric Clapton as well, and Pink Floyd as well. So the list is long. Go check it out. I'm sure you like what you see and love what you hear. And until the next episode of ToneQuest, keep rocking, guys, and cheers, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.